Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your cattle market summary for the week ending July the 26th, brought to you in part by the National Beef Wire. Today's spotlight is on Rio Nutrition Livestock Supplements. You can check them out on channel 1050 at nationalbeefwire.com. We've got some replacement opportunities. I've kind of been hinting at that on the last several visits here as you look forward. If you looked at the prior week to this last one, we saw kind of your feeder cattle come up and then go back down, and then we ended that week prior to this last one with a very neutral cattle on feed report. And then we had the cattle inventory, the mid-year cattle inventory report, which if you looked at that was pretty bullish. Most of us were expecting the USDA to say that we were continuing to increase our herd size and continue to be growing, but most of us didn't believe that. We felt like we've slaughtered so many heifers, we've slaughtered so many beef cows, we haven't been keeping heifers back, we've had a lot of calves die. We just felt like we were on the downside, but we felt like the USDA was going to continue to say we had a larger calf crop. But in fact, the cattle inventory report was pretty bullish to the cattle business, because they did say that the 2019 calf crop so far was a pinch lighter than it had been a year ago, and was going to be a pinch lighter yet to finish the year. The calves that are yet to be born for this year, this calendar year 2019. I think that is pretty significant in getting that news there, because I think a lot of the industry was already feeling like we were going on the downside or getting into herd reduction. But now that we've got this confidence with that report, we can put even more stock in it. And for you guys looking for opportunities in the market and different things, whether it be in supply or demand or a hole in the prices or something, I think we need to be looking at that. You know, our cow and heifer slaughter was up big in 2018 and has been up big year to date, so much so far this year, like 7 or 8%. I mean, pretty significant. And then if you looked at the last cattle on feed report, we saw that we had significantly more heifers on feed. They won't be kept. Guys just haven't been keeping them back. So you've got to get in on the early part of this. It's like the emus and ostriches, guys. Those that got in early made pretty good money. Those that come in late don't. And that's the way things work. You have to look for opportunities out there. And I think the opportunities are there if you can afford to keep some of your heifers back. I think you'll be glad that you did. I think replacement stock going into next calendar year is going to be pretty good property going forward from there. So you want to kind of get yourself positioned where you can take advantage of that. And like I said, you got to be looking down the road. When the town drunk tells you that you might want to start keeping more heifers back or getting in on some of these young bred cows, it's too late, guys. And you know, you might think I'm the town drunk. I don't know. We used to take turns in Maysville, Missouri, when I lived up there. But Maysville is a pretty small town, so it wasn't that big a deal. But let's look at the board for last week and talk about it. August live cattle futures. Monday was up 85 cents. Tuesday up 60 cents. Wednesday down 15. Thursday down a quarter. And Friday unchanged to end the week with August live cattle at 108.65. That was $1.05 higher for the week. Your August feeder cattle did quite a bit more than that. Monday was up $2.20. Tuesday up just 2 cents. Wednesday up 62. Thursday down 2. And Friday up 92 cents. With your August feeder cattle futures ending the week at 143.72. Up $3.75 for the week. Now you look a little further out on your live cattle. Your October ended the week at 109.90, up $1.40. Your next out on your feeder cattle was September, 144.10, up $4.30. And I can't help but think, but that a little bit of that positive is lending out front on your feeder cattle futures because that was kind of a bullish cattle inventory report. Your fat cattle trade, remember we talked the last visit, we didn't have anything happen at all until Friday, because through Thursday we had barely sold anything, even up in the northern plains, even in Iowa, but did have some pretty significant trade on Friday, and I believe that we'll be close to where we need to be, but we haven't got any figures in yet, but we'll find that out when those first reports come in here on Monday, and then I'll give you guys that update for Tuesday's report. But your Southern Plains market's $1.12. It was $1.12 last week. Everything sold at $1.12. That would be $1 higher for the week. Hooray for them. It's always great to gain a buck when you can, because the opportunities don't come very often. Up in the Northern Plains, you saw Nebraska and Iowa selling a lot of cattle about $1.14, $14 and a half. That would be $1 or so higher than last week on the bulk of that. But Iowa, with those premium carcasses, they're getting some of those live prices as high as $1.17. Well, the previous week it was running like 113 to 116. This week like 114 to 117. So a buck higher there. Dressed market did not change a lot. 183 to 185. Be mostly steady. Be spots of a buck higher. Box beef cutout values, we think maybe your cutout values bottomed out last week. They've done that in the past. That's kind of the week in the calendar that they tend to bottom out. And we did see kind of a stopping place on your box beef cutout values. Your average trade for the week last week on choice cuts, $213.09, down just 2 cents. And selects are actually up 28 cents, with the average trade last week at 189 and a quarter. So if that's a place to stop and bounce and maybe establish some market right in there, and maybe a little bit of positive coming back up, that's great, because we're starting to buy now for your Labor Day cooking. And then there's a lot of grilling goes on in the fall of the year. It's not quite as hot as the dog days, and you got a lot of good demand. We've had great demand, domestic and overseas and everywhere, for our meat, for our beef, and it continues that way. But you're still going to have some jostling in your dressed meat prices. But that choice select spread, $23.84. And just a pretty average movement, but healthy at 610 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. Your slaughter, 651,000. That's very healthy. That's 3,000 more than the previous week, and 11,000 more than the same week a year ago. If packers are going to continue to run the chain speeds this fast, they got to keep getting cattle, even negotiated cash cattle. So they're going to have to keep getting those. And I tell you what, your feeders that sell, the handful, the minuscule little number of that actually sell negotiated cash, are in a good spot again this week to either hold the market or gain a buck or so. And then all your formula guys, your coattail riders, you know, they're rooting them on from the sidelines. But they're the big players, and then you know it's not a good deal when all your big players are sitting on the bench, rooting your little guys on to do all the hard work for them. But you look around what's going on, there's plenty of forage out there. I talked to you about how I think these replacements, it's maybe a good time to do that if you can keep some of them back. Going to be a lot of hay put up around, a lot of people saying that it's not quality hay, but it's something for them to munch on this winter if they need it, get their room and working and keeping them warm. But the forage situation is great. Only 11% of your pastures are in drought at this time this year. A year ago there was 54%, and just think how significant that is. But you know, I told you how much heifers and cows we've slaughtered, how many heifers are on feed. We've also seen a significant number of cows being sold the last couple of months up in your drought-stricken areas. Everybody thought that those open cows, the ones that lost their calves, and had a rough time during the drought and during that terrible winter that they had, they'd sell them right away. Well, no, why would they do that? They had places they could put them. That was the last thing they needed to do. Yeah, they weren't going to keep them another year, but they could keep them long enough to put a bit of weight on them. And those cow sales, slaughter cow sales up in the northern plains and in the Midwest have been pretty heavy over the last couple of 3 months. Now we're getting to a point in time that our cow and bull market is really rising. We saw most all your sales, the cow and bull market was dollars and dollars higher. I saw a few sales as much as $7 higher. That is a ton on a slaughter cow. But now you're getting where your high dressing cows are selling well up into the 70s, and a good heavy muscle bull will bring over $1 in some places, and that's very significant, and that's a lot of return for guys' money. They need that salvage value to keep their places afloat. But I was talking with one of my good buddies that buys cows and bulls every week, and just saying, it's just getting that time of the year. They're also looking for boneless product in the market for that going into the Labor Day holiday and into your tailgate and grilling. And then also school starting back up, so you got the school lunch program buying starting up again, and they're going to be needing supplies for that. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on Cattle Market Central ended the week at 139.50 for an 800-pound steer. That was up 54 cents from the end of the previous week. Your cash feeders, your weeks haven't been ending right. It seems like your week on your feeder cattle marketing, your week is starting on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it's going back around and finishing up that Monday or Tuesday. It's not ending on the weekend, and you see that a lot of times, but it's been that way the last several weeks here, and it's going to be that way this week too. Your big high volume Monday sales are likely going to be a pinch higher to catch up with those mid to late week sales. And then we won't really know what this week's market is until we get into those Tuesday and Wednesday sales, because that's kind of where the trend's been starting. But if you go week start of the week to the end of the week this past week, your feeder cattle were mostly steady to $3 higher. Yeah, we saw the spike in your trends in the middle part of the week. That's just when the best demand was. But your early week sales this past week were lower because that's the way they were towards the tail end of that previous week there. But we can't really call those big specials, especially up there on Highway 20 in Nebraska, and just the major specials. We can't really call the market on those because they don't have a sale every week. And yeah, the cattle are dollars and dollars higher, but you don't have a good comparison from the previous week with all those reputation consignments there. But feeder cattle mostly steady to $3 higher, and you see that with your index level. It's 54 cents higher than the end of the previous week. Your calves, though, quite a bit better. Guys are starting to come in and start buying some late summer, fall, winter projects, buying some calves, and your calf deal quite a bit better, steady to $3 higher. Look at a couple of individual quotes. Bloomington, Wisconsin, Bloomington Livestock Exchange, good sale on Friday there. Look at some yearling steers up in that part of the country in Wisconsin. 60 head of 898, or same as 900-pound steers, at 140, and that's the top of the market coming off grass down in the Flint Hills and everywhere else. So they're getting it all up in Bloomington, Wisconsin. And talking about Wisconsin, I got to mention the two brothers, the Demo brothers up there from Wisconsin, that have gotten into some kind of a bad deal up there in northwest Missouri, and that's it's my old stomping grounds up there. Bramer, Missouri, my own town, played them in 1A football, so we were around that area, know a lot of the farmers around that part of the country there, and they're all just sick with what's happened there. These two brothers went from Wisconsin down into northwest Missouri to check on a cattle deal. They were feeding some cattle down there with a kid that maybe had a sketchy reputation there, and they come up missing, and they suspect foul play, and it doesn't look good. But as of this recording, they hadn't found them, and they don't really know what's happened, but it doesn't look good. And I tell you what, this cattle community is a small, tight-knit group. you don't have to just go very far into it before you start finding people that you know, and reputations. They take a long time to build in this small community and not long to ruin. But anybody that's having trouble in this commercial cattle industry, we all feel for them, and we're really thinking about those Demo brothers from up there in Wisconsin. In fact, Nick was on a friend of mine on Facebook, I know likely so he could watch the feeder flash, and kept up with the markets, and I just hate it when something like that happens to good guys. But another quote out of Mankato Livestock, Mankato, Kansas. Sure glad to have them on Cattle Market Central so we can get these good quotes for them. On Friday, they had a big load, 60 head of 880-pound steers at $142 even. That's a look at your week's markets from Home DV Auction Office here in Canyon, Texas. We'll talk to you next week.